Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BBfm podcast. I'm your host, Happiness Monore, and today we have joined by our guest, clinical psychologist, Miss Ndebele Tshepiso. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Our psychologist, can you care to explain to us, sorry, who are you, where you from, your age, if it's possible, and then like your journey actually, like from the status where you studied, like the intro.
Oh gosh, it's Tshepiso wa Ndebele. I'm a clinical psychologist. Gae ke tswa Begersfort. I was
Okay.
born and bred in Begersfort. I am 28 years old.
Oh,
Actually, it's gonna be my birthday soon. And gosh, my journey. I started my undergraduate degree at University of Limpopo. That's where I did my Bachelor of Psychology. After that, I went to work for an NGO, gona ko Begersfort, and then I was not happy with where I was. But also, I've known the journey of psychology that it's gonna require me to have a master's. So I went on to do my postgraduate degree, which is my master in science, majoring in clinical psychology, go Sefako Makgatho Health Science University, which we normally call SMU.
okay.
And from there, gosh, the profession took me to many places. As I mentioned, I started in Tefluop and then I went to Pretoria. After that, I went to KZN because I like to explore. And also, I love African psychology, and that requires me to know as much as I can about African people, about South African people, their cultures, their way of doing things, which is one of the key reasons why I went to KZN, because I wanted to learn more about the Zulu culture for myself. So after being in KZN for a while, I then came back to Limpopo because of other personal reasons, and I've been here ever since. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so tell me, what inspired you to become a psychologist?
Gosh, what inspired me? That's a very good question. I don't even know what I would say inspired me. I think the first key thing was I wanted to do something outside of the norm. I think growing up where I grew up, we had a lot of minings, which is generally when you are in school, you're doing your sciences, everyone pushes you towards doing engineering.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something different. And then when I was in high school, I met a good friend of mine. And in us just building a friendship, he's the one who actually said to me, gosh, you could be a psychologist. And I remember at that time, I think I was in grade 9, I had never heard of the word psychologist. I didn't know what that is.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I then did a bit of research to learn what psychology is, what a psychologist does. And I was like, oh, this is nice. This is interesting. I related to the concept of helping people. And yeah, I went for it. And I think I learned more about the profession while I was already in it. At first, it was something that a friend suggested. And I felt this is something I could do. And I went for it.
Okay, so how long have you been in the field?
Well, I started studying in 2015. That's when I started my first year in psychology. And then I graduated as a fully qualified clinical psychologist in 2023. And then from there, I worked in different organizations, in different hospitals. So I don't know, should we count back to 2014 or from 2023? I would say a couple of years, let's say 3 years or so. Yes, 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So tell me, was being a psychologist always your goal, or did you consider other professions?
I mean, before this friend of mine told me about psychology, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I think mainly because I love reading, I loved languages, and I was involved in a lot of debate, particularly when I was in primary. And being a lawyer is something that a particular teacher of mine just said, when you're growing up in primary, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, when are you going to be a lawyer one day? So that was just an idea that I carried with me from his teachings. He has since passed on, may God rest his soul. And so I carried that. I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then when I met this friend and when he ultimately introduced me to psychology as a word, then psychology became my goal ever since when I was in grade 9. I've always said, I want to be a psychologist. And initially it was quite a challenge having to explain that, because it's, like I said, it's not common. Not a lot of people know about it or knew about it, especially when you grow up in the villages. So, when you say, I want to be a psychologist, and people are like, what is that? What is a psychologist? And then having to explain something that you don't know yet when I was growing up was challenging. But now that I've been in the profession, at least I've got a clear way of explaining to people what a psychologist is.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, what keeps you motivated?
My people.
Okay.
When I say my people, I mean Black people in general. I think with mental health in particular, it's we would say is a taboo, but I don't actually view it as a taboo in many cases. I think, as I mentioned, I like African psychology. I'm interested in African psychology, in learning, indigenous way of doing things, how our people used to do things. Granted, psychology is a foreign profession. It started, it's something Western. And now we are adopting it for it to be applicable and appropriate for our people. So I would say Black people in general, our ways of doing things, our norms and traditions. And I think they have kept knowledge. African knowledge has always been there. Some of these things, I look at them, when you study psychology in the Western way. For example, we've got what we call client-centered psychotherapy. But when you go deep and you analyze the wording as well as the techniques that are there, in that there is something equivalent in our African way of doing things. Aspects of Ubuntu itself. Ubuntu is the core of African psychology. So that's the therapy that's been there, which is that it's communal. It's not only up to the person, the individual, to fix things. If something is wrong, it's up to all of us as a collective to fix. And that's what our people used to do. And hence, maybe that's why things like depression were very rare. It's because we had safeguards, or we've had the community to prevent that from happening. Because aspects, when we think about mental health, we think about depression, it's a lonely thing. It's about the lack of authentic connections that what's keeping people sad and depressed. And some of those dynamics were not really there in the communal setting. So I would say what keeps me motivated is my people, the people that I serve every day, their experiences, the things that they come to me with. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, okay. So, which professional challenges have you encountered?
Gosh, I was actually just thinking about it not a long time ago, thinking about how, of course, when we speak about mental health, I'm happy to see that mental health is something that is getting or garnering more attention, because times have changed. Communities are no longer the same. Preventative measures are no longer the same. So being able to be in spaces whereby you are able to provide the service is a privilege itself. But some of the challenges, mainly, I think they are more my own personal challenges, in a sense that my own sense of belief in my abilities. I think I struggled with that for a while. And also getting into the profession young. I got into my master's program, I was very young. So I've always felt, I don't want to say self-conscious, but I wondered, do I have enough experience to do this? Do I have enough to do this? Do I have enough training to do this? But I think ever since graduating and having worked in different hospitals and getting feedback, that has helped me develop that sense of confidence in what I do, and my ability to achieve what I wanted to achieve every day when I get into the office, which is today I'm gonna touch lives, one life at a time.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think slowly outside of that, I think the general challenges with any work, particularly now that I'm in a private practice, a small business, so having to worry about how are things going, am I going to be able to pay this person or that person? Those are the basic challenges that I think every business owner comes across. But from a psychology point of view, I think the key thing was me believing in what I'm doing.
Yeah. So how do you build trust with your patients?
Oh my goodness. I try to provide warmth. I think by the time somebody comes to talk to me, the truth is they have spoken to many people before
Yeah.
about the same issue. Because as I mentioned, we are social beings. So by the time they come to me, they have spoken to their friends, they have spoken to their families, they have spoken to their pastors, they have spoken to their gobelas, they have spoken to that stranger ko taxi rank. They have spoken about it.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the key thing is either they did not receive the warmth that they needed, or they just did not receive the space that would be dedicated for them. For instance, when you speak to your friends about what you have been going through, which is a natural response, you're my friend, I love you so much, and you're telling me that somebody did you bad, I'm going to be very angry on your behalf. And sometimes my anger might overshadows what you are coming to me with, because you're my friend, I love you, I want to defend you right there on the spot. Can't do, that's not what you needed in that moment. You just needed somebody to listen to you, or you needed somebody to ask, how can I help you? Which is something that rarely ever happens with friendships. But when you come to the office, the key thing is creating that space that says, this is for you, and we are going to get you that of which you need in this moment. And asking the patient in that self, how would you like me to assist you today? So it gives them that platform for them to get exactly that of which they're saying that they need in that moment. Of course, not saying that friends are not good, but I'm just saying that sometimes when we speak to our friends, then it becomes their emotion plus our emotion, and then that leaves the key issue hanging. So, but when there is somebody who's going to bring a mirror to the problem, it kind of helps. So I think I try to create that warmth for the patient to say, this is a safe space for you to be anything and everything that you feel you cannot be outside.
Okay, Shane. So, what's your biggest success story throughout your career?
I mean, of course, one would say the qualification itself. I think people getting into psychology is such a difficult thing. The program is heavily structured. The getting into masters, you have universities where they take only 4 master students. So I think getting into masters has been a big success. But I would like to think that every time I see a patient, and one of the things that I do is we call a check-in and a check-out.
Yeah.
So a check-in is, when you're coming into the office, I check with you, where am I finding you that day? In what space am I finding you that day? And people would say, you find me feeling sad, you find me feeling overwhelmed, you find me feeling tired. And then at the end of the session, I say, where do I leave you? As in now, compared to when you came in and now, how are you feeling? And I think every checkout for me is a success story.
Yeah.
Because it means that we did something that day that was different from what you would have done yesterday. And when the patient comes back, I would say that is even the biggest success, because it means we did something the previous time we were together and I was able to sustain that life for that moment. So every patient that I see for me is a success story.
Okay. So, what is the most misunderstood aspect of your field?
Gosh, a lot, hey? And I think, of course, it's because, as I mentioned, it's more, I would say, a new, or rather, there isn't much information about psychology. People tend to think that it's about coming in, just sitting down and talking to someone for the sake of talking. There is a lot of work that goes on into that talking. We challenge thoughts, we formulate new thoughts, we check patterns, we give people what I would say is the bird's view effect. Because sometimes if you're sitting in front of a problem like this, it becomes too big for you to see all the corners of what that problem is. So I would say the thinking that it's talking for the sake of talking, that's the biggest misconception, because it's not that. It's something deeper than that.
Okay, so what's a practical piece of advice you'll give to someone who feels stuck in their life?
I nearly asked stuck in what sense? Because I think that's an occupational hazard of trying to analyze all the questions that are there. So stuck in terms of simply not having their life moving forward.
Yeah, good. While you don't have a progress in your life, you have depression, all the stress, like don't have a way forward.
I would say, of course, as I mentioned now, the idea of therapy is to provide you with that bird's view effect. So if you've done everything, you've spoken to everyone that you can talk to, you've reached out for support from everyone in your life who could give you that support, your friends, your family, then I guess one of the first steps is to get that professional help. Even if it's just a matter, because I think sometimes people would say, okay, I'm going to go to a psychologist. When I get there, what am I going to say? And that's what keeps a lot of people stuck, wanting to have answers that you don't have.
Yeah.
So I would say the first step is just to go. Just book the appointment. And when you get there, and just say, I feel stuck. That's where I am. I'm stuck. That way, then we can unpack where are you stuck. And also sometimes we are able to then show you areas of your lives where you are actually not stuck. Sometimes it's because we have our own plans to say, I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3 at this age.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen exactly that way. You may find that you didn't get that BMW you said you're gonna have at 30, but you have another different brand that is just as luxurious. But because you've always imagined yourself having a BMW, then it feels like you're stuck, if I can put it that way. Whereby you may find that you actually have a lot, but you haven't taken the moment to acknowledge the lot that you have, because you're focused on not having achieved something specific according to that specific plan that you've always had.
Okay, so how do you advise someone who wants to join or study the profession of psychologist?
Somebody at what level? Because that is important, hey? I would say if you are in high school, I would say those who are in high school, do your research. Because for one, what I'm finding is that a lot of people that are already in the profession doing their undergraduate, they are there not being aware of the fact that they still have to do their masters. So I would say do your research. And of course, this is aspects of reality. It's important to prepare your family as well, especially those who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. That is significant because by virtue of the families that we come from, you may find that you are the one who's expected, or the one who the family looks up to, say, if Rika kitima these things, so that when we are school, you're going to come back and then take us where we are. So it's important to prepare your family early, because now when you graduate your undergraduate degree, then family we can bring you done until you're not done. So doing the research, knowing what's required from you, and more or less preparing your family and standing your ground in preparing your family. Because now if you are going to prepare them, chances are you are going to get pushbacks. But why are you doing this if it's going to take you this long? If it's something you're passionate about, you really, really want to do it, I would say go for it. Another thing I would say, start volunteering as early as possible. Start getting yourself involved in in community work. The key thing about being a psychologist is that you are going to be a community advocate. You need to know how to work with people. You need to know how to relate with people. You need to know how to learn from people's experiences. And you do that when you are directly involved with people. So volunteering at your nearest clinic, your nearest orphanage, that will set you out, because those are some of the things that will be required from you when you register or when you apply for your master's.
Okay, yeah. So tell me, where is your practice located, and how can anyone who wants to come to you contact you? Yeah.
As I mentioned, I am based in Begasford. I am at 169 Reebok Street. I am within Dr. Dibakwane Medical Center. And then on Mondays, I come to Jane Fest. I am with Dr. MMR Masamola. How would I direct people here? But I think if people would just call me or send me a WhatsApp text on 078-965-8700, then I'll be able to send them either the location of the practice, because I'm not too familiar with Jane Fest, so I wouldn't know exactly how to direct them. But if they're able to send a text, I'll be able to talk to them. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for coming to our studio.
Thank you for
Yeah, we know that
having me.
you're such a busy. But then like we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Till next time.